Hello everyone and anyone unfortunate enough to have to turn to this video for a general review. Review might be too specific of a term for what this video actually aims to do. I suppose commentary is a better descriptor, but I entitled the video review, so I'll go ahead and stick with that. But really more like commentary, but also review. Okay, well, as I was scrolling through Steam, I came across Siege Survivor Gloria Victis, the game I'll be talking about. Apparently this game is part of a series called Gloria Victis, which, after a brief look at their Steam storefront page, I found includes one other game entitled Gloria Victis, medieval MMORPG. Seems this company is pretty straightforward with their game titles. Anyway, I haven't played an MMORPG in a very long time, and I have no intention of playing one for an even longer time. But the idea of a siege survival game that focuses on a city being besieged got my interest. One of the biggest concerns I have whenever I play a survival game is that it'll turn into an overburdening experience where I have to micromanage every mundane need and want of the character I'm playing or group to simply keep him alive. While I appreciate the realism of having to constantly eat, drink, and sleep, I also prefer not to spend my entertainment time focused on doing such mundane tasks. Unfortunately, Siege Survival gets a little too close to overburdening me with the mundane. Mundane. Yes, I understand that a survival game is going to implement gameplay that focuses on the mundane, but the way it is incorporated into the overall gameplay cycle is the difference maker. It isn't a terrible implementation in this case, as the further I got into the game and the more self-sufficient I managed to make my home base, the easier it was to meet the basic needs of my group. But then it really stopped playing like a survival game and started playing much more like a simple resource management game. The distinction between a resource management game and a survival game can be blurry, but while the initial stages of the game did give me a survival impression by making it at least seem like I have to really be careful with how I use what I manage to find around the besieged city, the impression gave way to something more along the lines of I have to manage my resources and base development efficiently enough to provide for the needs of my survivors and the defenders at the bastion. And those are the two main priorities of the game. Provide for the needs of the survivors and provide for the needs of the Bastion's defenders, alongside providing the necessary equipment that they need to withstand the occasional assaults launched by the Izmir invaders. So I suppose that's three, but two's fine. Two priorities. Okay, so I've been going back and forth on whether it would have added or taken away from the game if I could have actively participated in the siege combat more. While the game did provide the opportunity to fix up a trebuchet and launch pots of tar into the invaders during the assaults still remained off camera, and my group served mostly as an off-screen support, I guess, unit. Seems appropriate, but also it left me wondering if allowing for a more active role in the combat would have added positively to the game experience. The game does regulate you to off-screen support more than active combat, but there is an active combat element to the game. While the resource gathering portion of the game seems to be geared primarily towards stealth, that is, you send out one of your group members, try and avoid being detected, and collect as much resources as you can to bring back to the home base. There was the option to attack and ideally kill the patrols of besiegers. While the combat is rudimentary and engaging it brings about its own headaches, it was an option to explore when I got tired of sneaking and just wanted to try and take out some of the invaders. Unfortunately, it seems like the developers didn't spend much time building this route, but to be fair, they didn't add much to the game that encouraged me to follow the route of basically an active guerrilla fighter to try and bleed out the invaders through guerrilla tactics. I didn't really go into this game expecting great combat mechanics, but I figured there would be an interesting story. On that front, the best I can say is that the story was serviceable. It gives you a general overview of the scenario, who is involved in the siege, and a general introduction to each of the members in the group, that is your group of survivors. However, there is little in terms of relationship building between group members, character development, or even world building. Now, obviously, I wasn't expecting the Lord of the Rings here, right? I wasn't expecting an in-depth story into each one of their backgrounds, but I was hoping for something that would help me invest into this world, or even just into this particular scenario and its set of characters. Maybe it's because I didn't play the MMORPG that is part of this series. Maybe in that MMORPG I could find out I could get a better understanding for the overall world and I guess why this particular scenario is meaningful. But based on what is presented in this game, there wasn't much there to invest in. At the risk of sounding far too negative, I'll point to a few positives. The most obvious is the game is technically sound. It ran smoothly, and at no point did I run into any technical difficulties like bugs, glitches, or the like. The gameplay cycle is enjoyable for a playthrough, and it is an interesting way of approaching the survival genre. What else? Oh, the game environment is fun to explore and visually appealing. I mean, it's not spectacularly beautiful or anything like that, but it is well crafted and effectively works and remains consistent with the siege atmosphere. A final positive worth mentioning is the scripted instances that occur as you explore. I enjoyed having to make a choice, like whether or not to explore the hull of a ship, break through a door, or make the decision to kill a wounded soldier. These are just some of the instances that I remember, but the other instances work to add an element of surprise to the resource and exploration phase of the game, which can get repetitive. So, is this game worth spending time and money on? Well, that's a question that could only be addressed with a sufficient amount of personal information. So, feel free to email me the following personal information to this is a joke. Don't email random people your personal information at protonmail.com. That email again is this is a joke. Don't email random people your personal information at protonmail.com. Okay, so everyone got that? Good. Just make sure to include your name, address, and social security. You know, all that stuff that can really help me determine whether or not this game is right for you. All right, for those of you who prefer not to go through my individualized process, you're missing out. But Siege Survival is worth trying for its approach to the survival genre. While the game did start to appear and play more like a straightforward resource management game, as I progressed through it, there is enough there to maintain at least the background feel of survival. While there was plenty that I would have liked to have seen added or reworked with this game, for the most part, I did enjoy playing through the game. However, I don't see myself playing it more than once unless they add something substantially new, but considering that I paid something like $18 for the game, and I think they have a demo on Steam so you could even try it out for free, I'm okay with one enjoyable playthrough. I mean, there is certainly replayability for people who find the game cycle enjoyable, but I like what I played and I had enough. Or phrased another way, I didn't do it the game didn't do enough to keep me for longer. So I'll be moving on. So all that's left is to provide the game with a completely arbitrary numerical rating. All right, so I'll go ahead and give it a 3.5 out of 5 cows. Yeah, that's good. I can't bring myself to give it that full cow. I mean, I have to keep my own stockpile of cows up, right? It's one of those things where you never really know when you're going to find yourself having to besiege a city. And you want to make sure you have enough cows to go ahead and spread disease throughout the city. Yeah, those are my concerns. Okay, well, till next time.